Hi everybody, Marge Twisdale here. So I'm sitting in front of the meeting house here on Arch Street in Philadelphia, which is owned and has been owned by the Quakers for hundreds of years. And so it's a really beautiful place. I'll tell you a little bit more about the building later, but right now I want to do an update. Not an update. I want to share with you what I learned in my conversation with Mary Catherine Roper, who is the Deputy Legal Director of the ACLU of Pennsylvania. Their office is based in Philly. So my goal with this video is to make sure that all American citizens who are going to come here and participate in Philly have a clear understanding about when your rights are protected, when they are not, what to do if your rights, which should be protected, are being, overstepped, or you're not receiving the proper treatment. And so we're going to go through a few of these things. Okay, so first of all, I am not here to give legal advice or to speak on the behalf of the ACLU. What people need to understand is the difference between public and private. So let's start with that first. While you're here, there are a lot of public spaces. This includes the streets. This includes various parks, which have been specifically set up by the city as, what do they call them? Basically, where's the word for it? So I can be clear here. Traditional public forums. So in the United States of America, your First Amendment right to speech is protected in traditional public forums, which includes streets and public parks. So FDR Park, for example, which is across the street from the Wells Fargo Center, has been set up by the city specifically for protest. It does not mean that you cannot take action in other places, but it's actually an effort to create good gathering places. And the city has done a really good job, actually, of trying to prepare for the health and safety of people who are here to protest the DNC or to make political action about the DNC. So they have misting sites set up, they have bathrooms set up. I think there's going to be food, probably water will be distributed in some way. They're doing what they can. So these areas are called, like I said, traditional public forums. Okie doke. So then we have private, and there are two types of private. There is private, like you understand right now, a grocery store. If you walk into a grocery store and you're acting like a jerk, they have the right to tell you to get off the premises because it's private. Your First Amendment rights do not protect you in a cafe or a restaurant or a bank, right? But there's another type of private that they really stress that I try to get the information out about, and that is that the DNC has arranged to lease a number of public forums for specific timed events. For example, around City Hall, which is a big public space, there are certain areas that have been leased for concerts or other events. If you were to arrange to lease a space, like let's say you go to a park and you lease a picnic table and you're having a birthday party, is it appropriate for some random stranger to walk up and start proselytizing about religion or politics or anything else in the middle of your birthday party? No. Yes, you're in a public space, but you have temporarily leased that space for your private use. So if you go into a grocery store, a cafe, a bank, or if you go into a space that is traditionally a public forum but is currently being leased for a private event, in both cases you're in a private location. And that means that if you don't pay the ticket price or if your behavior is inappropriate, they have the right to have you removed. And if you refuse to remove yourself, I'm sorry, sir, but we're here to do this and you're doing that, you need to leave. And if you refuse to leave, at that point you are engaging in civil disobedience. And that is when you can expect, in my view, my understanding of this, you could expect to be arrested by the police. And your First Amendment rights would not be protected because you're in a private venue at that time, okay? So that's really important, is to understand this. Civil disobedience is when a person breaks the law on purpose, usually for a strategic purpose or trying to get a message across. So we all have heard of that. just understand civil disobedience leads to being arrested with the natural consequences of being arrested. Of course, no legal advice here. I'm not encouraging anything. I'm just trying to help people understand better, when you do and do not have your First Amendment rights. And this is fair. If I was having a wedding in a public park and I had rented the space for the day for my wedding, I don't think you have the right to show up and take over my wedding, okay? All right. Public streets and parks are part of what are called traditional public forums. So we also have the street issue. When Philadelphia, the city of Philly, chose initially to close Broad Street throughout the city, and they were also going to ban marches during rush hour, that was when the ACLU got involved. So with regard to closing Broad Street, they wrote a strongly worded letter that they made public about how this was a really bad idea. And whether it was the letter or not, Philadelphia changed its mind. And then when it came to banning marches during rush hour, which means telling people they could not go do a march in traditional public forums, which was down a street during rush hour. To do that, they have to have what's considered a really good excuse, a really good reason. And when the ACLU sued the city and said, you don't have a good enough reason, it's not a good idea to do this, they said they lost, and they said, all right, okay, fine. So that's why there will be a couple of marches down Broad Street that will be in the middle of the day and during rush hour where more people are going to see you. Okay, so just that's a little bit of backstory on what was happening around that. If you've seen that the ACLU got involved, they did. FDR Park, like I said, has been set up pretty well. Misting stations, why do I mention that? It's going to be, here we go, folks, Philly is hot. Now, I like it. I'm weird. I like hot and humid, okay? But regardless, it is going to be very hot. So what do we think about? Water. And I mean, like, I'm drinking 3 bottles of these a day, at least. And these are 33.8 fluid ounces, okay? All right. Shade. Now, in the city, ironically, the city skyscrapers provide a lot of shade. But when you're marching down the middle of a street or you're out in the middle of the park, I think shade may be at a premium. So think about a sun hat or something. Electrolytes. Notice it's not just plain water. I actually mix some kombucha with water. But think about your electrolytes. If you get off, you'll feel sick. Medical condition. Please, if you've got a serious medical condition, risk of heart attack, other issues going on, make sure you have your meds with you. Think about being really gentle on your body. We don't want anyone who's trying to do a good thing to protest for a better future to end up getting hurt. And also, I would suggest no dogs. The ground is really hot. What does it say here? Burned paws hurt? Really, no dogs should be coming. That is my personal opinion. It's not going to be illegal to do it, but your dog will probably be miserable, unhealthy, potentially, and at risk. Okay? So, highly recommend. Now, here are the pieces of information that you're going to need to protect your rights. Okie doke. So what we have up here, and I wrote it for people who are visual, not just auditory. So this is the aclupa.org/DNC. You go to this website, you're going to get all the information direct from the ACLU. It is a brilliantly set up page. Everything you need to know. Now, this is there. You will find this there. It's the Mobile Justice app. It allows you, when you're recording something, to be able to send it instantly so that if someone's going to steal your phone from you or something inappropriate is happening, you can press a button, it sends the information and saves it in case someone's trying to actually shut down your recording opportunity. This is a phone number, 484-758-0388. You call this number if you're having trouble, if your rights are being stepped on, if the police are mistreating you, that's your rescue number, right? Okay. Now this is so cute. Know your rights when protesting at the DNC. So this little pamphlet, which is super awesome, they made a bunch and they're giving these out around Philly. You can actually print it yourself at this website, and it's the Know Your Rights, and it has a printable option. Okie doke. And it won't print out in some long thing. It'll actually print out in a full, like 8x11 size piece of paper. And then this is another website. Last thing, upagainstthelaw.org. Upagainstthelaw.org. Okie doke. And they have some really good information from what I've been told. I haven't checked that website out. Okie doke. So this is basically about it, guys, when it comes to being prepared to protect yourself while you're there. Here's last thing I'll say. A lot of people think that the security measures around the Wells Fargo Center are all about the protesters. To be honest, we're not really probably that scary at all, and we're not that important necessarily when they're making these safety and security decisions. They're setting up what's called a national special security event. That's what's happening. And the reason it's so important is because who's there? The president is going to be there at some point. All of your candidates are there. Your senators are there. They're sort of taking like all of the very important pieces of the American government and putting them into a building together. Some of their concerns have to do with potential dangers that are nothing to do with protesters at all. So the reason they're setting this up is not to necessarily shut down our voice, but it's because they have to. If this makes sense, okay? So we're very much within the realm of reasonable and appropriate security measures to prevent dangerous people, not protesters, but actual dangerous entities in the world from being able to have access and cause harm to, as well as our pledge delegates. Basically, that's the purpose. So, you want to be smart about public and private status of different venues that you visit. You want to know when your rights are protected. You want to know when your First Amendment right is not protected. In the 7-Eleven, you don't get to say anything you want to say. And that's my information, basically, that I picked up from talking to Mary Catherine Roper at the ACLU. Last comment. Definitely not giving legal advice here. I'm not an expert. She did not give me legal advice. I'm not speaking on behalf of the ACLU. I'm just a person who's here trying to get answers on how to be smart during the protests, and I'm sharing with you as a casual citizen what I learned. I may be right, I may be wrong, okay? And remember, Philly is hot. Please leave Fido home. Please don't bring your dog. Okie doke. And I'll see you guys later.